You said you guys have at a certain point taken the wrong approach. What's the furthest you've been wrong?
The furthest, I didn't spend enough time finding great people early on. I didn't spend enough time it took me a long time to be convinced of the business model. And for that reason, I was very reluctant to fundraise. You cannot sell a product that you're not sold on. That's not my quote. That's, it'll come to me shortly. But really, don't try to do it. So that would be one mess. That would be kind of one thing. It's like, you got to get sold on your product before you try and sell it, because otherwise you're just not going to be successful selling it. So for that meant we could have done different things to get ourselves sold earlier, or quite frankly, like identified earlier on that the organic growth model that we had for the app wasn't going to get us to the million or the 500,000 installs that we needed, the 100,000 active users that we needed to monetize. We didn't have that growth curve. We could have called that out earlier. We looked at subscription. We could have looked at subscription earlier, tested that earlier, and seen that we didn't have the retention for that, and probably made this pivot pre-COVID and won during COVID. Instead, we identified the pivot during COVID and are now implementing like in the latter half. I think we could have seen a very different 2020 had we pivoted earlier, and I think we could have pivoted earlier. If you asked me in 2017 when I started thinking about this, I would have told you online is the future for conscious shopping, and yet we didn't bet on that. I mean, you mess up. I think staying power. I just heard this term the other day. An advisor was talking about staying power is like it's a third of, I don't know, I think success. Hopefully, I'm hoping, because people don't stay and play long enough. And look, if you believe in the problem you're solving and you're passionate about solving that problem, and you believe that that you trust yourself to solve it better than anybody else, right? Then it's just about staying in play and doing the exact thing that you said, right? Which is like, okay, we messed up. How do we move? How do we iterate? How do we change, right? And I think that's for us what we believe. And look, we've definitely, I mean, sometimes you also have to look back and say, maybe I shouldn't be in this business anymore. But I'm probably not the right person to give you that advice, because like I've been in it for a little while and we've had ups and downs. And look, it took 2 years for Google Play. We got this recognition, and we just made a bet that like we didn't want to build the app anymore. So like also the external world takes time to catch up, and the external world doesn't like, validation isn't necessarily conventional. Like people think, oh, this is amazing that you got this recognition, everything must be great. And I'm like, no, we have 10,000 users, but then we've educated them to the point of not being engaged. And all of them are shopping online and using us to make those choices. And so we know, like, we need to pivot. So I think, yeah, we've totally messed up. This is not the most articulate answer, but I would say that like it is process of iteration.